Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to a city council work session for Tuesday, May 23rd. And call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we will first ask for public comment. And when you're making public comment, please give your name and mailing address. Try to keep it under 3 minutes and remember to be kind and respectful. And so we'll start with the people in the audience. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment? Nobody? Okay, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make public comment? If you'd raise your hand.
Yep. Mickey has her hand up.
Okay, Mickey?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Super. I just wanted to say I really support the city being involved in making sure that we protect Holland Hill. I think this is a special place that will be important for generations to come. Thanks.
And can you give us your mailing address, please?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. P.O. Box 84, Cannon Beach 97110.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that's on Zoom? Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to make public comment? Okay, so we will go ahead and go on to our only discussion item today, which is the Haystack Hill discussion. And Bruce, do you want to start us off?
Yes, the intent was to bring together three parties that have been talking independently, but have not had everybody in the same room. And that's why we're having this meeting today. So, nothing further than that, man.
Okay, thanks. So Beth, would you like to introduce at the table?
Sure. This is Matt Rippey from State Parks and
Hi.
Mike Moore. Beth Holland, P.O. Box 132, Cannon Beach, Oregon.
And then
Tabitha.
on Zoom, we have Tabitha. Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
I'm Tabitha Henriksen with the Real Estate Services Group with State Parks.
Okay. So do you want to make an opening statement?
Okay, I have out this map that because I figured, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And it just shows from, this is very rough because I did this, but it just shows how the state park now operates with the trail coming in off Spruce Street at the back and looping around through the park and coming back and exiting at the top of Haystack Hill. So there's a really steep slope down to Haystack Hill there, and that's the end of the trail. With the addition of our property, you have two more accesses that cross our property and end up going down the steps in front of Haystack Rock. This is an important idea too for a tsunami evacuation for the city, something to consider in time that would afford that. Today, I'm hoping that we will just be able to cover the three options that were in the letter and actually John Wickersham proposed from NCLC as a way to kind of guide the conversation. And Matt, of course, has a lot of information from the state about their ideas about where one of those three options might land. It's significant to us that we make progress on this because we just need to be moving along now. And as indicated by some of our donors in a letter to you and also just my family's interest that we need to settle our estate. And in order to move ahead with fundraising or move ahead at all, we need to have a recipient of the property. We need to know that the goal is to unite the two pieces together under John Yon's deed. So today, it's just a discussion about which options work best between you and the state, and then maybe look at the deed and see if there's any concerns there. That's really.
Okay, anybody have any initial questions for Beth? Okay.
Great. And I'll, I may pass to Tabitha too, quickly before I go through any information, just because she can speak more to some of the tech, being in part of real estate services. She can speak more to some of the technical sides. But before I do that, I really want to thank you all for inviting us here and getting everybody to the table to have this discussion. So thank you. Tabitha, do you want to talk through the Haystack Hill portion?
Sure, I can do
Thank you.
that. Let me share my screen real quick. So I'll start with this map. So this is just a map that indicates in the green, you'll see that this is the existing state parks ownership. It's around 9 acres. As far as we know, it's zoned open space. It's been used as a pretty low impact recreation area for quite some time. And that's because this property was accepted by state parks from John Yon with specific deed restrictions that really limited what the property could be used for, including that it would not have a picnic area, that would not have developed camping. It was really his heart for it was really that it would be a natural space and that it would not have a lot of development. And so its management has been pretty low impact, I would say, for the last several years. If there's any specific questions about that, I'm happy to answer those, or if I don't have the answer, research and come back to you. I know the way that these tax lots are drawn, there is a little bit of I would say, a discrepancy along the side that borders the right-of-way for the highway here. When ODOT transferred this to state parks as we became our own entity in the 90s, they did reserve a portion of this along the east side as part of the right-of-way. However, I would say with the deed restrictions on the property, I'm not sure legally they could have done that. So that may be something that we would work to resolve prior to any kind of a deed transfer of this property. And so State Parks has considered this property for disposition. We still have a process that we would have to work through to kind of finalize that decision making. And we do also have a governing group known as the State Parks Commission. They are the only ones who can make any final decisions when it comes to anything property rights related. So whether it was an acquisition of property or a disposition of property, that would need to go before that group for a decision making. They typically meet 5 times a year, with our next meeting coming up in June. For most real estate items, we will take something before our commission twice. Once as an informational item in order to give the public a chance to respond in case they have any concerns or a desire to voice anything into the process. And then once again later as an action item for them to consider and make a decision. Are there any specific questions?
Yes, Tabitha, I have a question. So right now, currently, do you clear trails? Do you do any actual, have people come to the park and do any actual physical labor?
It's my understanding that we do safety checks and trail clearing, but I don't know beyond that. That would be a question maybe more for your local operations manager.
And I could speak to that a little bit. I actually was the manager for the Nehalem Bay Management Unit. It's maybe been 8 years ago, but in that time, a lot of what we would spend staff time doing is checking some of the trails. But like Tabitha said, it's more related to safety issues, things like hazard trees. I remember when I was the manager there were some trees that were potentially in danger of some of the houses along the perimeter of that property. And so we paid somebody to come in and have those removed. So it's more of that kind of work that we've done. Again, with some of the deed restrictions, there's not a lot we can do in terms of expanding the resources there. It's mostly for trails and those kinds of things.
I'm just, what I'm trying to get a sense of is how much work it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not very much. It's not been very much work for Oregon State Parks to manage it at the level it's been managed, I guess. Yeah.
So any idea how often you would go do a safety check?
Go through there. Generally speaking, so the rangers that work up at Ecola also work down at Nehalem, so they kind of go by there probably weekly, maybe monthly even sometimes. We've not paid a ton of attention to that piece of property, if I'm being totally honest. Yeah.
But
When
if
you
you
say
had-
go by there, you don't mean like going through all the trails or anything?
In the pickup, driving by,
Okay,
Oh, just driving by.
on a spot check. Yeah. Yeah. We truly have not put many resources into it. And it's still, I think probably the citizens of Cannon Beach have done more work there for the trails than State Parks has to keep those open.
That's true of our property now as well. I mean, it's been in the family for 50 years and, you know, we've done very minimal, but the trail seems to hold up. You know, the way it connects, you know, there's opportunities to help expand it. And of course, the staircase, if it was, you know, up from Viewpoint Terrace, if that became something the city wanted to do, could be good for access, but it's a very low maintenance situation.
Can I ask a question? I'd like to kind of establish the scene here, and that is, what are you asking us to do today? I'm a little confused as to whether or not it's the Oregon State Parks that is interested in acquiring the property and turning it over to the city to manage, or whether how the North Coast Land Conservancy fits into this. Who is going to be collecting, if we decide that we want to do this, who's going to be collecting donations to purchase the property? Can somebody go through that and explain what it is that is being requested?
Sure. Do you want to speak to the Holland property and I can speak to the State
Sure.
Parks property?
Yeah, the options that we're asking you to consider today are the three options that are in your packet. They're at the end of the letter, the summary letter. So that's where the focus could be. As far as fundraising goes, NCLC is not in a position to help us with this because they've got so many wonderful projects under their. But it's our intention. We have donors, significant donors who've already stepped forward, and they feel comfortable with the fact that this is such a unique opportunity that and if we miss it, it's gone, you know. So I think that the fundraising will happen, and it's up to the family to do that. So we're just working to raise awareness and to bring people together who are willing to do that. And, you know, obviously, the city would be the recipient, a potential recipient. It seems that might be the best solution, is for the city to acquire the land just for maintenance purposes and for everything else. But there is a wonderful trail system or builders, Oregon Trail, State Parks works with them quite a bit, and
Trail Builders of Oregon.
yeah, they're a volunteer group, but they're very active. And so as far as maintaining or any financial, you know, resources, there is an opportunity. I mean, if you look at this map, if the city were to acquire the property, if it went that way, as you come through State Parks, you can see how it drops down to Center Street, which allows for a connection through the S curves. It would be a working footpath that would connect below the S curve. So it would allow people to go off Spruce Street on this side and traverse over to the other side.
Right now, we're just talking about the process and who does what and how are the funds collected? Do the funds come to the city or the state, and with those funds, then you would buy the property from the Hollands, is that right?
So again, it depends a little bit on which option. So I think my understanding is that the Holland family is working to raise enough funding to pay for the purchase of that property.
Correct.
It's separate from the state park parcel. This is a parcel, again, depending on the interest of the city, this is a parcel that we have talked about disposing of as a state agency. And it seems like it could be a good fit for the city. And so that's partly why I'm here, is to have that conversation. If it is something that the city would be interested in, again, kind of in tandem with the Holland property, that would be a conversation for our commission. And we'd be happy to bring that forward to them, to be able to transfer the property to the city. I would add too, just especially in terms of, funding for kind of some of the projects like developing trails and those sorts of things. If the city did own these properties through Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, we do have several grant programs that help with kind of the development of recreational facilities. So that is kind of a side conversation, but I'd be happy to supply you with that information as well.
I'm very interested in option 3, which is the one where the land, the land gets purchased from the Hollands by donors. And then the land comes, State Park starts with the management and then transfers it to the city along with the other property if they're willing to if they want to do that. I think that's a great idea. I'm not sure how does that work? What's like a timeline? Let's say that the money is raised, the city would have nothing to do with the purchase of the property. I don't think we're in a position to do that, to tell you the truth.
Sure.
But I think the city individually, we could support it in any way we could, or, encourage people to donate, or however we could do it, that would be legally all right. But once the property is purchased and the state takes ownership of it, how does that transfer happen?
That's something that tomorrow I'll be meeting with Larry Popkin. He's a real estate attorney here. And Mike Manzulli works with NCLC. He's also Coastal Alliance member. And he's very open. And I'm sorry, because I should address your concerns. And Amber's helping with this too, is this financial situation where 501 could hold the deed and hold the donations until the time that the donation we meet our goal, and then the deed is transferred either to the state or the city. The one goal is that the properties are united. That's a strong goal that we're holding on to, and whether it has to go to state parks to be united, or whether the city can acquire the land and then it's united to the park. And that brings up the other discussion is the deed that John left this to the state with, that we agree to. And that sort of simplifies things. And our donors are agreeing with this deed. So as far as the logistics of taking money in is something that will have to be worked out between the 501 that we use and hopefully it will be North Coast Land Conservancy. It may be Coastal Alliance, but that gives our donors a tax write-off. The 501, they're holding a deed. It's an escrow account, basically. And then the deed gets transferred to the city or the state at the time that we've reached our financial goal.
So a 501, a nonprofit has been already established?
It is. That will be established. I mean, that's part of our work to make this go.
And it's Mike Manzulli and Larry Popkin are putting it together. Is that right?
Putting together a route for it to happen.
Okay.
It's going to be like an escrow account something like that. I'm not sure.
So who oversees it then?
There will be a 501. I'm sorry, Amber.
Can I add to this just for clarity?
Yeah, come on up.
You have to identify yourself.
I didn't think we were going to need this, but now we do.
I'm Amber Fowler, PO Box 657, Cannon Beach, Oregon, 97110. So as Beth said, I've been helping with the Families Project, just in terms of the logistics and how it can all come together. But Nancy, to answer your question, it's using an established, not creating a new 501c3. So working with an established organization to operate as an escrow account.
And what is the established organization?
Whether it's NCLC or Coastal Alliance, that has to be determined, but those are
It's one of those two.
correct. And so then the city would basically, it's, I think what Beth is trying to figure out and we're trying to figure out in this meeting is if the point that the city needs to be involved is just after the point that fundraising is all complete. And then the city says, Lisa, this is your background too. So it's the escrow agent transfers, right, the deed, and then the funds go to the family to pay off the family for the land. And then the conservation deed does its job and it stays in Cannon Beach, hopefully adjacent with the state parks. Does that clear up any mystery?
Yep.
Okay, a little better.
So we're not involved at all in the actual fundraising or the money part of it. We're just,
You guys could just be
Yes.
pleasant supporters saying, let's do this and
right,
rally everyone.
which I think is a great idea.
And then, so for the state park side, it would just need to go through our commission. Like Tabitha said, we do an informational, again, depending on the interest of the city, we do an informational to the commission. And then follow that up with action, to transfer. And it's, Tabitha, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe for, local governments, it's a zero cost transfer, from the state agency to the city.
We would most likely do that in this scenario. It would just typically when we do that, it's conditioned for recreational use, but this property already has a more restrictive deed restriction. So that would come with the property in the transfer is all of those items that have already been applied to the property by Mr. Yan.
So then the state parks would acquire it. At least according to option 3, the state parks would acquire it and then turn the deed over to the city. Is that right?
That would be then turning both over. Yes. And the only thing that does add a little bit of a layer of complexity because again, it would have to go through our commission to receive the property and then again, to move it out. So it would add just a little layer of complexity.
It seems like it would be cleaner to have a dual or tandem process.
Yeah.
Where the city, after the fundraising has finished and the deed and the escrow, agent, that part of it is done in terms of fundraising, that the city would be in a position to take receivership of the deed, the land, after all the financing has happened, and then state parks could work in tandem with the disposition of their part of the parcel so that it adjoins the Holland property with the state parks property with the same John Yan deed and conservation plan together.
That's good.
Thank you.
So in your fundraising plan, how long do you think it's going to take you to?
It seems contingent upon having this piece settled with the city. So having agreement with the city, because I think that the donors that Beth and Mike and the family have talked to all want the city to have it and want the state parks piece to be adjoined. So it's sort of a chicken and egg situation, but that's why this is happening today here.
Yeah, if our shared goal is to make sure that they're owned together and managed together, I think the most efficient way would be if the city were willing to take that after the fundraising and then state parks could work on our effort and make sure it's being done alongside.
And your commission needs to meet twice.
Yes. So the first time would be in June. So just in a month or so. And then they don't meet again until September. To kind of take the summer off.
And that gives us time to work on our side, which is completely disconnected from all of that. This is the ground that we land on. This is where we can know that the property will be conserved and that it will be guided by this same deed that John Yan has given us. So it's kind of it simplifies things, and we will be working to raise the fund. Obviously it could take longer than September, but we'll just keep going until we get there. And we believe that there are avenues for that. Could be wrong, but.
Do we have anybody from Public Works or somebody from the staff?
I'm on Public Works Committee.
What's that?
I'm on the Public Works Committee.
Well, I'm thinking the staff.
Staff viewpoint.
Earlier.
Aaron's gone and I think Trevor's in that meeting.
I'm just curious. I'd just like to know what kind of, what they think in terms of the amount of work it's going to take to.
I would like us to have time to go up there, take a look at it and then report back.
So you haven't done that yet?
No.
Okay.
I would add to that, we have what's called maintenance management points. So it kind of tells what sort of personnel hours it takes to manage a piece of property. And I'd be happy to send that along just to give you a sense of what we've calculated that it would take.
That'd be great.
That
Yeah. Okay, you bet.
You know, I was on the trail committee for several years, when it got developed behind town here, and this is such an obvious link. I mean, and this illustrates it very well, that the city benefits enormously from being able to maintain trails back there, just like they do throughout the rest of town.
I think we all agree.
Okay, good.
I mean, I was part of that too, and we always envisioned
Yeah, this is
being
a,
able to go from one end of town to the other
Mhm.
without ever having to go on Hemlock.
I'd like to know when you need it, when you need I don't know how this works. Someone, I mean, obviously, if you want this added information from Public Works, that's going to cause us to continue this some more. So when can we come up with once we have that information, when can we have a decision? Do we do it by motion and vote, or how do we do it?
I'm not sure at this point, but it seems that there are a lot of pieces that have to be aligned before we're at that point.
this is not right. We have to have you aligned before we can begin.
Yeah, I don't know what it,
Not stepping through some of these, you know, we need to have some.
we want the Public Works information and the amount of time that it takes them. That I understand, but I don't understand what else we'd be looking for.
I might add that from a public works standpoint, I think, I don't know what their involvement would be. There's no infrastructure. There's no public restroom. There's no parking area. The only thing that would occur on either parcel are trails. So
Or tree maintenance.
tree maintenance trails. But there was a question at a previous State Parks Committee, State Parks Commission meeting. People were asking about, well, where's the parking? And if the city owns it, there's not,
Not meant to.
I think you can view it as more as a community park or a neighborhood park.
But it's a walk-in park.
But it's a walk.
I don't think
park.
parking is meant to be there. It's not a place for parking.
Right, and if you've noticed on the S-curves, because of Yelp or whatever, the number of cars that have begun parking along Hemlock there has increased tremendously. But, we don't envision any kind of, anything that would trigger Public Works involvement.
And Matt's already told us that sometimes they just drive by.
Yeah.
So, and actually, do you know how many times you've actually had to, you've hiked the property?
When I was there as the manager, and again, this is maybe 6 or 8 years ago, and I was there for about 4 years, and between myself and the Rangers in that 4-year period, I'm a little bit embarrassed, but it was maybe 6 times that we would get out and really walk.
Do you have that logged in, like when you do?
No.
But we all have concerns that if we're
That it would,
going to do this, we want to do it right.
sure.
We're going to maintain the property.
Yeah.
Um,
We never logged, kind of the time spent there, but I can look back and find out, what sort of expenditures that we had there. Again, things like tree removal, those sorts of things. And I can get that information when I send the maintenance management points as well.
Okay.
Okay.
And I have to say on our side that in 50 years of owning the property that we also want you to accept, the maintenance has been next to nothing. I mean, getting it ready for the market, we did some tree limbing and it's in John Yon's deed that's okay. And, we're very sensitive, but it just opened the view up. In John Yon's deed, he also mentions the north slope. And I think that's in reference to, at the time my parents bought the property back in 1973, John Yon had just acquired this larger parcel. And it is in my memory that Ross Elliott, who had developed the neighborhood to the north, had wanted my father to have it because he was a developer and he thought it should be developed. And he said there was somebody who wanted to conserve the land and he wasn't in favor of that. So John Yon was trying to buy this property at the time. And his interest too was the view from Akola Park as well as our view of Akola Park, because it's a headland it's very visible. So anyway, that as far as maintenance goes, not haven't had happen. And it could happen that you'd want to increase the view potential or something, or platform, I mean, in the future, but that would be a city decision. It wouldn't be something you'd have to anticipate spending money.
What I'm trying to establish now is a timeline and a plan of action. So if we get this information from Matt,
I'm sure I can get that to you by the end of the week, by tomorrow.
okay?
Yep.
So then what's the next step to making this happen?
The next step is for our attorneys to work with their attorneys. No, nobody wants to hear that. But if there's going to be a complicated transaction of some sort, we want to make sure that we know who we're dealing with and what the terms are going to be, that sort of thing. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get through that process.
Well, you'd be dealing with state parks, right? That's who the transaction, because once they're done with their part of it, the Hollands raise the money, the land is purchased. We don't have to be involved in any of that. Our attorney doesn't have to be involved in any of that. Then State Parks gets the land. So we're dealing with state parks. According to option 3.
Lisa, I think that the option that we just talked about a few minutes ago was after the fundraising commences for the Holland family, that the deed would be transferred from the escrow agent to Cannon Beach.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be for the Holland property only. And then State Parks, like I said, working in tandem would do their part and transfer their land when they get through their process.
That's where the state parks. So we would have to have our attorney deal with your escrow agent.
Yeah, but I don't even see what the process would be. It would be a function of maybe an MOU, like a memorandum of understanding that Larry Popkin could draw up saying, once fundraising is complete, City of Cannon Beach agrees to take ownership of this land. It's 2 signatures and a date and you're done.
And really, the escrow account.
Oh.
Well, maybe you can edit commas all day, but I mean, it's really like an MOU and signatures.
I know, but my concern here is I don't want to lose this opportunity. And if we dilly-dally, we're going to. And so I want to move forward and I want to know, how do we do this by a resolution? How do we do it? I don't know the
I would like to,
mechanics.
I would like to suggest for the fundraising arm of it, that a simple resolution from the council affirming the development of the property, or the future
Acceptance.
acquisition of the property is the policy of the city. That would give assurance to the donors to move forward and start writing checks.
And to state parks that they will be a disposition instead of an acquisition.
I think instead of saying policy, it's at least the intent, the intent of the city to.
Because it's contingent on the fund.
Correct. Yeah, contingent on the fundraising finishing. Yes.
Okay, so resolution, how do we do that?
Look at me.
So we would need to work with Ashley. Our upcoming.
Would it be Ashley or Bill? Would it be Ashley?
Yeah, Ashley.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would need to work with Ashley. The packet, I don't know that we would be able to get something ready for the packet, because the packet goes out next week and we have a holiday. But we can get a hold of her and try to have something to you guys at the work session on the 11th, because we have a special meeting that day as well.
So we can put it on that meeting for a resolution on the 11th.
Perfect.
We could provide some wording as well.
Okay,
Suggest your wording.
so can we do that?
You could have a draft. I believe from Larry Popkin then.
We will email Ashley.
Let's make sure everybody's on board with that. In Gary's absence, he did send me a message that I can read to you. FYI, I am fully supportive of any route to the city acquiring the Holland property and Haystack Hill with similar deed restrictions that are already in place for HHSP.
Hey, yay, Gary.
That's Gary's in his
Yeah.
absence.
Just so to be clear, the parcels will remain separate, or ultimately do you
United.
united? Okay. And as Gary stated in his letter, and my concerns as well, and I think they've been voiced already, that the deed restrictions with the Jan parcel would be exactly the same on the Holland parcel, correct?
I think that it is, I think that like I said, there's potential for view expansion. And this is stuff, I mean, that the city might want to address because it's just part of extending the trail, say, if you just made sure that the people could stand and gather in certain spots. But it doesn't have to happen either. I mean, that would just be, it's not in the deed, it's not in the deed. But there was one other thing that we would consider as a family is that the Clatsop Nehalem tribal community might be addressed with the purchase of the property, so that they have some sort of stewardship role or some kind of recognition of their land rights, in the sense that they have always been here. That's the only thing I can see that would be different from the John Yon deed, that would differ. And it's easily not happening. If it's a problem, we wouldn't have to change anything. It won't be named Haystack Hill State Park anymore. It will be Haystack Hill City Park. That would be a difference.
And just thinking on the state park side, depending on the pace of the Holland property, we can go faster or slower, kind of depending on, how the council feels. We can go at that pace if that's what's needed to, or we can do it sooner. We're pretty flexible, I think.
Do you have any kind of timeline in terms of when you want to receive the money, other than as soon as possible?
No, not really. I mean, to be honest, we're just hoping, we're just fingers crossed that this is such a jewel. It's such a prominent and positive good that I think that the city somehow will come into ownership.
And you already have some donors that are going to step forward if we, right?
We've begun, yes.
They need a commitment from us that we would manage as a passive park.
So I have a question about an event that you're planning for May 29th.
I was just gonna say.
There's a couple other events happening in the city
We
have a city council meeting with Design Review and Planning Commission. And then the fire department also has an open house.
Yeah.
Never, nothing to do with.
I know, and that was just dumb luck because
Any way that you could, because what is the purpose of your event?
just to let the community know, just show them that it's surprising that few people have ever been up there. So we're trying.
Opportunity for you to reschedule so that others.
Sure, I think that could be done. I don't know why not. They've made a flyer for us, the chamber did, but we haven't sent it out yet. I was gonna talk with them about it, but certainly if that's desirable, yeah.
And maybe check with the city calendar to make sure there's.
It just came out of the blue, they called and said they'd like to support it, and I thought, sure, that would be good. We do need to get the community involvement going, so, yeah.
Yeah, so we'd like you to do it on a day when more people can.
Okay, that's true.
Us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Us,
Yeah.
right.
Some neighbors have been contacted door to door and are very enthusiastic. Snyder, Stephanie and Ryan Snyder, which Roy Seibel, the choir director, very, very positive about the idea. So
We didn't find anyone who was not positive. The Oilers are definitely.
the Oilers, yeah.
Yeah. Not a lot of people live, or have ever here, so.
It's hard to see a downside. It's hard to see a downside to having this.
I don't.
I
think
mean,
I don't think there is.
yeah.
Do you have any established fundraising campaign planned at all?
Well, we do have Jim Beasley. He's gonna kind of come and help us, and I think Larry Popkin seems to have ideas about, how certain people that we could be approaching.
But this event, the community event, was named at getting community support and educating the community that this is what's happening. But it's sort of like, this has to come first so that the city has assurance, the community has assurance that it's going to happen with the city of Cannon Beach so that they can get behind it and rally. And that will be part of the fundraising effort, obviously. But I think that with my experience in fundraising, you have to get your anchors solid. And then once your anchors are solid, then people see there's a there and they can support.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the NCLC campaign to fund the rainforest. And that was such a good, solid, widespread campaign that I'd kind of like to see something like that with this
Sure.
property.
Yeah. I think that it's just about getting the right things in order first to be able to enable that.
And I think John Wickersham was at a previous meeting and super supportive of this from NCLC and would probably give them any kind of help he could in figuring out how to, because you're right, that was a great
That
campaign.
was a very good campaign.
So the 11th is when we're going to do a resolution. It seems like, I know I'm talking a lot, Nancy's, and it seems like everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
definitely supportive of it as presented.
So,
Right.
and
I
Gary
would like to
is,
hear, back from the city's interpretation of just our future involvement, because
Right.
that is a concern of mine.
And that was also a concern of mine that I think our city staff is stretched very thin right now with the projects they have. We have a little, once a month trail party that we just started again since COVID was over, and we're getting the same individuals, and we're not getting any younger. And so we need, the maintenance of the property is an important factor.
But since there has been none, you don't really have to do anything. I mean, if you don't want to, it's not like you're under the gun to get something.
But we need,
done.
that's something we need to make sure.
Sure. And that, yeah, I think that I do think a staircase is in order for a tsunami evacuation or for, coming up off of Viewpoint Terrace, but it never has to happen anytime soon. It could be whenever, it could be years away. But the potential for improvement.
DOT money for that.
So I was going to go through a quick checklist of things that I'm going to send just to make sure that I've got it. So I'll send you the maintenance management points that we use to kind of calculate how many personnel hours we would use on that property, as well as any invoices that we've paid to give you a sense of what it's cost the state. I'll include a couple of different grant programs too. One's a RTP program, which is our trails. It's a federal trails. We're kind of a pass-through for that grant program, as well as the local government grant program. And then if it's helpful, because I'm just thinking about in terms of capacity, if it's helpful, I could pass along some of the ways that we structure volunteer programs, friends groups, that sort of thing, Adopt a Park. If that would be helpful, just in terms of like getting a group together that maybe is willing to kind of take care of it, to relieve some of the, potential work that would be for Public Works. Okay.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Send that to the whole council.
Yes. That was my note to myself. Okay. Perfect. And then if there's additional things that come up after that, just let me know and I'll be happy to dig deeper.
When is the commission's meeting?
The next meeting is, I want to say the 13th of June.
Okay. So if we adopted a resolution on the 11th and got it to the commission as soon as possible, that would indicate that we were interested and intended to.
Let me ask Tabitha, I can't remember if we have anything on the commission's agenda for Haystack Hill.
We do have a tentative item. We weren't sure if we would want to use it or not, but that would be our first presentation for the disposition. So we would be presenting and kind of making them aware of the property and, answering any questions that may come up about a potential disposition of the existing park out to the city. But then our next meeting in September is when they would take action on that potentially.
So we do have that as a placeholder in there right now. Thank you, Tabitha.
Mhm.
Remember.
So would the commission want to receive the resolution then for the June 13th meeting?
I don't know that they would, and Tabitha, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know that they would need a resolution. I think if we, in the brief, talked about this discussion and the willingness of the city to potentially accept the property, that's all we would need.
We can get the resolution anyway.
Yeah.
But,
Sure,
but the
resolution.
Holland family would like to have a
Mhm.
resolution.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that.
And
It's
we'd like
better to have
Go
it.
to the commission meeting. We'd
Sure,
like to have
sure.
it.
It's better to have it on.
Logistics of,
So maybe your chamber event should happen after the after the resolution,
okay,
so that
That's a
we
possibility.
know it.
that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
make more sense.
We might have like a minor event to just let people know that as far as our fundraising goals go, that we seem to have things gelling up. That not a big thing, but just, you know, we may, if that's okay. And then we would have the bigger event after the fact of.
Sense.
And, it's in the audience, but, I have a question about future zoning, if it's necessary for the
Okay.
city to change it.
Go ahead.
If I can address that to you, did you hear?
I think that all the properties OS, I'd have to check and verify, but I don't think there would be any need to change anything. But I have to verify that and I can get that before the 13th. I mean, that's just.
For the 11th.
11.
I can speak to that, actually. It's zoned RVL. The Holland property is zoned RVL. The Yon property is OSR. And I know that because I was the planner in the late 70s and early 80s.
This is so bad.
When my father-in-law started his quest to develop 14 or 15 lots.
Untransparently.
And I hope he's looking down and smiling at me because
Admitting something now?
yeah. And the idea of a slope density ratio was also came out of my fevered little brain. And it didn't set well with the family, so.
That's enough.
It's-
That's bad. It was
It turned
bad, all
out, but
bad.
it turned out wonderfully, so.
We're here now. We're here now. We're here now. I'm happy to be here.
That's the case.
Okay, so it's just a, you know, another,
It would need to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Space.
Open space.
Exactly. It's.
Could you tell me what that stands for exactly?
Which one is that?
The OS,
R.
R.
Space and recreation.
oh, okay. That's what the pond property is now?
No,
That's what the state
Yeah.
park is now.
residential, low density. We have four lots on 4 acres is what we have now.
What is the end zoning we want for the whole thing? What's it?
Say the OSR
Yes.
for
Which is-
the space and recreation
Okay,
in order to meet the deed restrictions.
Mhm.
okay.
And to reach our goal of uniting the property.
Thanks, Steve. Other questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make any public comment after hearing the discussions? Go for it. Go for it. I didn't hear any mailing addresses, no. Is there anyone online that would like to?
Deb has her hand up.
Okay. Go ahead, Deb.
Let me unmute. Okay. So the fundraising, so you get this.
Yes.
Yeah? Can you hear me?
Name and mailing address, please.
Deb Attia, PO Box 1426, Cannon Beach, Oregon.
Thank you.
So who's gonna handle all of the marketing plan for the fundraising and?
The Holland family.
Pardon?
The family is in charge of the fundraising.
Okay, so what I'm asking then the family is, outreach, we'll support you with outreach on the Cannon Beach Gazette, protect
Okay.
Cannon Beach.
That should be done individually with the family.
Okay, not talk here. Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was just wondering how they're gonna raise the $7,000. I mean, the $7 million. Wish it was 7.
4 million.
4 million.
4 million.
How much?
Or
Four.
4 million. Oh, okay. I guess I'll talk to the family then. and see where
Okay,
it is.
thank you. Anyone else?
Sharon Clyde had her hand up.
Sharon?
Sharon Clyde, Post Office Box 973, Cannon Beach. I'm just wondering if the fire department has been talked to about this acquisition and what would be more. I know that they already have the agreement that they take care of the state, you know, and all the land around, but I just wondered if they've weighed in on this in any way, or if they should even. I don't know.
Yeah, Sharon, how would they weigh? I mean, the land is there already, so, and if it caught on fire, fire department would respond, so I'm not sure how they would be, how anything would change.
Potentially more
well-
people visiting
Well,
it.
yeah, of course, they take care of anything and everything that needs their assistance. That's not the question. The fact that, you know, can they get their trucks up there? Will there be, you know, things like that? Just have they been talked to about this? I mean, it's a big deal, and I like the deal. Don't get me wrong. I think it will be wonderful for this to happen. I was just wondering, I hadn't heard anything about, you know, if they've been
No.
about if it would affect them in any way, as far as their firefighting, they're getting, you know, if someone's on a trail, you know, getting up to the person and, you know, just checking. I have kind of a soft spot for the fire department and I wanted to check.
I might mention that there's a hydrant. There's 3 potential accesses to the Holland property. One is at the top of Haystack Lane where there is a fire hydrant. The other is on Viewpoint Terrace. I think there's a close by hydrant at that point and good access up the hill. And probably, although I haven't looked, that there's another access from Spruce Street to the rear. So access to the property is at 3 points. So I think, and actually Chief Reckman had walked up there when the family was considering a small development on the site. And he felt that it was doable at that point, correct?
For 4 houses, yes.
Oh, okay.
But this is much lighter than that.
Right. Okay. Anybody else on Zoom? Anyone in the audience? Come on up.
Laura Sinclair, PO Box 13, Connie 4. I've been listening and I've been trying to keep up, but as I understand it, is that the family is going to have fundraising, and after the fundraising is complete, then it'll be turned over to the state, and the state turns it over to us, to the city to manage. And see, that's how lost I am. I guess the biggest question is, how long is this going to take?
We don't
have a timeline or anything like that. If there isn't a deadline we've got to meet and we don't come back and go, oh, wait a minute, we have to have this money now, we're gonna lose it, or something like
They
that.
don't have to have any money.
Okay, well, that's what, but if their fundraising doesn't work, does it fall the city to help? Right.
I mean, the acquisition is totally contingent on them raising the funds.
And I
is
thought-
my understanding.
I was confused the same way you were, Lynn. I thought that we went to the state and then it came to us, but it doesn't. It comes directly to the city.
I just wanted to know, I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Jim?
And Seabrook Warman, PO Box 778, Cannon Beach. You all hopefully got Wes's and my emails.
We did.
I just want to say again, this is really a once in a lifetime opportunity. let's go for it. And I'm just really, really hopeful, excited, and we will help in any way we possibly can. Thank you all.
Anyone else? Okay, does any counselor have any more further questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Tabitha.
I have
Go ahead.
one quick question that I just wanted to clarify. My understanding is that the city is interested in potentially possession of the state park, even if perhaps the Holland transaction does not work out. Is that a correct assumption?
That hasn't been part of our discussion.
Okay,
Yeah, we haven't talked about
Yeah.
that.
okay.
We're willing to talk about it. It's,
Right.
but
Let's see how this
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah, for now,
Okay,
we can
perfect.
gauge our timeline based on the Holland
Right.
timeline. Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
great.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted clarity on. Thank you.
Thanks. Staff have any further questions? Any counselors?
I think it'd be a wonderful addition to the city.
oh my goodness, yeah.
Do you guys have any other comments that you need?
No, I'm just very thankful and very, I know my family's here on Zoom and I believe they're still here. And we're just very honored to have had this opportunity. You know, the 50 more years is, you know, we're all in our 60s and 70s now, and there's just such a deep love with all of us for this property because it's been with us for so long. And especially me, you know, having lived here for over 50 years, to be able to go up there and know what a invaluable place it is. And I just look forward to introducing the community to the spot, to getting people up there so they will understand just what we have to preserve is very, very special.
I would just thank you again for making the time to get us all together in the same room and have the conversation. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Question.
No.
To aid in fundraising for the family, is it possible to acquire a list of the community to the family of the mailing addresses and the names of the community?
Not through us, it's not because utility records are exempt from public records, but you can contact the county.
We can do that
Okay,
through
that's
the county.
Voter list.
Okay.
Yeah, we have already done that for
Yeah.
surrounding neighbors and.
Cool.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so next we're ready for good of the order, and we do have one item. You want to talk about the letter that that the county is asking?
Oh, I'm not,
to-
I'm sorry, I was not prepared to talk about that, but
Oh, are we supposed to?
Yeah, this was the transportation grant. The county asked for a letter. I think Steve might be able to give us a little bit of information.
Yeah, they're applying for transportation growth management grant. And so they were requesting the city to, they're asking cities in Clatsop County to provide a letter of support for their grant request. So we thought we would participate and provide them a letter of support.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay.
Do you want the city manager or mayor to sign it?
Always.
Okay, I will get.
Mayor. Well, no, I think it's
Yeah.
better for.
Okay, anything else for good of the order?
No.
Okay, thank you all. Meeting's adjourned. Next.